Chapter 56, Choosing a Plot of Land. I would like to join EGCC. Logan was not surprised by this. While many considered them to be blood-sucking worms, it was undeniable that without EGCC's involvement, most people who do business would have fallen to bankruptcy unable to get the needed resources. Although the city seemed safe, that safety was limited to its boundaries. Outside those borders where the resources are found, chaos reigned. Despite the continental array set up in the arcane continent, it's still dangerous outside city boundaries. In fact, the danger in the wilderness outside the city is magnified by the top three factions: Order of the Arcane, Knight of Order, and Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce. They divided wilderness sites into different categories and cultivate rich and rare resources. Anyone can get these resources as long as they had the strength to do so. However, the divided site has different requirements and restrictions. For example, Tier 3 Nascent Mage can only go to Tier 3 wilderness sites. Of course, the stronger and the weaker one is not allowed to go. To ensure this works, the Continental Array can pinpoint and detect any change in mana and spiritual signature of the individual attempting to disguise themselves in order to access a lower tier of wilderness and loot its resources. This is also why, before entering Lothmire City, Maximus detected that he was under array surveillance when attempting to disguise himself as a Tier 5 Mystic Mage. The end of monopolization also occurred because of this system, as it significantly restricted powerful factions from hoarding resources that were inaccessible to the weaker ones. In the past, having a powerful individual in your group allowed you to monopolize low-tier resources, as the weak were unable to challenge you and the strong had no interest in such resources. However, with the division of wilderness sites into different tiers, the resources obtainable are limited to the corresponding tier. For instance, if you are a Tier 5 Mystic Mage, you can only access Tier 5 wilderness sites. This system provided advantages to the Mage, Knight, and Commerce factions because they train talents across all tiers, thereby ensuring a share of resources from each wilderness site. EGCC, being a Commerce faction, fully exploited this advantage by utilizing various rare resources to expand its alliance. That's why even though many called EGCC a blood-sucking worm, many still flocked to join it. After all, not anyone can get resources and fight others for resources in the same tier. Back to the conversation. Then I welcome you to join our big family, Logan replied with a smile, pleased with Maximus's decision. He took out a store token and began typing something into it. After a brief wait, Maximus' personal token vibrated, signaling a notification. Congratulations on joining Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce. Fireworks erupted in the display, showcasing the significance of Maximus's membership. It seems that the faction has deeper control over personal tokens than I had realized, Maxis thought in his heart. Now, let's discuss your store establishment. First, where would you like your store to be located? Logan inquired, steering the conversation back to Maximus's request for assistance in building his own store. I'm not sure. Do you have a map or something? Maximus asked, feeling slightly embarrassed by his lack of knowledge. The basic knowledge of the Ethereum realm he bought from the system only provided rudimentary information about the world and didn't even include a complete map or detailed information about specific locations. Sure, Logan swiftly retrieved a different token from one of the cabinets. Injecting his mana into the token, a map titled Silverleaf Domain appeared. It projected a holographic representation of the entire domain, complete with mountains, rivers, and buildings, though devoid of people. The lifelike display resembled a miniature world. Silverleaf Domain? Maximus questioned, his skepticism evident since he was unfamiliar with the division of the arcane continent, having only known about the origin domain, which served as the continent's center. The Silverleaf Domain is where we currently reside. It was ruled by Eldris Silverleaf when he attained the status of a primordial mage 10,000 years ago, Logan explained. What about the division of domains within the arcane continent? Maximus pressed further, his curiosity was unsatisfied with Logan's initial response. Logan smiled and replied, normally, information like this is classified and requires a significant sum of money to obtain. However, since you're a newly added VIP under my jurisdiction, I can share a few details with you. The arcane continent consists of over 1,000 domains, each governed by a primordial mage or a cosmic knight. The rulers tend to be older the closer their domain is to the origin domain. Now, as for why this information comes, you needed to buy it at a cost, Logan continued. It meant that the closer to the origin domain the earlier they were promoted to Tier 9. The farther they were, the later they were promoted. Maximus couldn't help but be curious about how newly promoted mages and knights managed to establish themselves amidst the existing domain rulers. He asked Logan, how much would it cost for the follow-up information? Logan playfully responded, well, let's just say it's around 1 billion low-grade magic crystals. He knew that Maximus couldn't afford such a price. Disappointed, Maximus confessed, I don't have that kind of money. He shifted his attention back to the map projection of the Silverleaf domain. Scanning the topography, Maximus skipped over the wilderness areas as they were unsuitable for setting up a store. He focused on various cities, searching for a suitable location. After a few minutes, he found a place that satisfied him. In the center of the map was the floating city where the ruler of the Silverleaf domain resided. First, it had a teleportation portal connecting to other domains. Second, it was populated by the powerful and wealthy. The only drawback was that with so many influential beings present, there was a risk of his disguised using Tier 5 Mask of Grimoire being discovered. Noticing that the city was divided into outer, inner, and core areas, Maximus turned to Logan for more information. Why is this place divided into 3 areas? What are they for? Silverleaf Floating City, or Sylvanspire, is at the core of the Silverleaf domain, where the ruling Silverleaf family resides, Logan introduced. The core area is strictly for the Silverleaf family and is considered a forbidden place for outsiders. The inner area is where most of the powerful forces within the Silverleaf domain gather. And the outer area is the most lively and largest section of the floating city, Logan explained. Listening to Logan's explanation, Maximus concluded that Silverleaf Floating City was indeed a suitable choice for him. Maximus wanted to be certain, so he asked, who is the strongest individual in the outer city? Don't worry, sir. There is no danger within the city premises, Logan reassured him, understanding Maximus's concern for his safety. But if you'd like to know, the outer city is primarily inhabited by civilians or those without influential backers. The strongest mostly consists of Tier 6 mages or knights, Logan explained. As for Tier 7 and higher individuals, they tend to spend their time meditating and training in the inner city. They rarely venture into the outer city, he added. Maximus nodded, feeling reassured. Upgrading his Mask of Grimoire to Tier 6 would provide him with adequate protection. And in the rare event that a Tier 7 or above individual appeared, he could simply hide. In that case, I would like my store to be located in the outer city, Maximus declared, firm in his decision. Very well. You can now select the specific location for your store, Logan said, operating the token to display all the available plots of land within the outer city. Maximus examined the options and eventually chose a small plot of land that was relatively close to the teleportation portal. It suited his needs, especially since the teleportation portal would be his primary means of escape if necessary. The teleportation portal was the key element he desired, as he had heard that it could transport individuals anywhere with enough mana, which in this case meant magic crystals. With the ability to escape at any time, Maximus felt a sense of security in his chosen location. What about the interior design, do you have any specific requests? Logan asked. Not much, just build it according to a Tier 5 building, I mainly want to sell alchemy potion. Maximus didn't need much. He could certainly request that they reinforce it to withstand Tier 7 or above. However, considering he only has tens of millions now, he decided to focus on earning money first and think about it later. Standard design of a mystic Tier 5 potioneering alchemist store. Logan muttered as he operated his token. After a while, the original Silverleaf domain projection disappeared and was replaced by a list of designs for his store. You can choose from this list. If you need further customization, feel free to let us know anytime, Logan assured him. Glancing at the designs, Maximus felt too lazy to deliberate and randomly selected one that he found pleasing enough. Here he clicked. Chapter 57 Returning Home. In the Lothmire City branch of the Ethereum Gold Chamber of Commerce building, Maximus clicked on a random alchemy shop design that caught his eye. Logan swiftly processed the information, calculating the total cost of constructing the storefront and acquiring the land. The total comes to 84 million low-grade crystals, Logan said, a smile lighting up his face. The building materials and labor amount to 14 million, while the right to use the land costs 70 million. Maximus smiled wryly, he only possessed 20 million low-grade crystals. The cost was far beyond his means, and he was about to voice his financial predicament when Logan seemed to sense his unease. Don't worry, if you don't have enough cash, you can borrow from us with interest, Logan reassured him. Maximus was curious. This was the first time he had heard about the possibility of borrowing money from the EGCC. What would the interest rate be, he asked. As our VIP 6 and a Tier 5 alchemist, you can borrow up to 1 billion low-grade crystals, with an interest rate of 30% per year, Logan explained carefully. Maximus let out a sigh. This was a timely solution, and the fact that he could borrow up to 1 billion was impressive. Though the interest rate seemed like black usury, it was convenient as they didn't require any collateral. In that case, I would like to take the credit, Maximus decided. Logan smiled and entered a value in the store token. Can I see your token? He requested. Here, Maximus said and took out his personal token. After Logan tapped his own token against Maximus's. -84,000,000. It was disheartening to see a negative balance when he only had about 20 million in his account. Is there anything else you need, sir? Logan inquired. I'll need 1 million packs of materials for the Mystic Potion and 500,000 each for the Tier 5 Soul Mending and Blood Rejuvenation Potions. Add those to the credit as well, Maximus requested. Since he was already in debt, he figured why not borrow more. Moreover, he needed to use the purchased materials as a cover. After all, potions couldn't be made out of thin air. As for what he would do with the materials, he hadn't decided yet. Anyway, they wouldn't spoil in his storage space for a long time. All the materials for the potions amount to about 450 million low-grade crystals, Logan calculated. And also, can I borrow the remaining balance to make it a total of 1 billion low magic crystals? Maximus pressed on. Since he was already here, why not borrow more? Anyhow, he was confident he could earn that much money easily. With just 1 million mystic potions, he can earn 1 billion magic crystals effortlessly using the system. For others, creating that million mystic potions required them a year of not eating and sleeping just concocting potions. As for him, he was only responsible for being a shopkeeper, reselling potions he bought from the system. Sure, you can, sir. It would be our pleasure, Logan replied, his smile widening. Although borrowing money doesn't yield an immediate return. Lending money was akin to burying it and to produces more baby money. As for Maximus reneging on his payment, it would be impossible. The debt was formed through a personal token where his mana and spiritual signature were bound. Even if he escapes and hides in the most desolate and hidden part of the Ethereum realm, using his mana and spiritual as a guide, they can easily find him. What Logan didn't know was that Maximus was in disguise, his mana and spiritual signature altered. After all, only those who have mastered the laws as a Tier 9 mage or knight could achieve such a feat. Attempting to disguise oneself merely to borrow and cheat money would be even more impossible. Tier 9 mages or knights rule over domains in the arcane continent, giving them endless richness. In theory, they own the entire land, and if they were in dire need of money, which is highly unlikely, there are countless people who would readily offer assistance. Of course, Maximus was oblivious to all this. Even if he were aware, he wouldn't dare take the risk, for who knows what peculiar methods they possessed to track him down. Logan swiftly entered a series of numbers into the store token and tapped it with his own. -916,000,000. Edward William. Bank account. Money, 489,560,000. Debt, -1 billion, 30% yearly interest. As Maximus glanced at his bank account, he felt as though he was caught in a dream. Although the weight of the debt alone would bury anyone who dared to take it on, for him it's just lifting his fingers and opening his mouth. He could simply assume the role of a shopkeeper, counting the money he earned from reselling. Moreover, this approach felt safer and more convenient, with no one doubting him. After concluding their conversation, Maximus stepped out of the store. As he gazed at the bustling pedestrians on the street, he was lightheaded for a while, not knowing what to do. He felt that he was still dreaming. Anyone who was poor and suddenly woke up the next day knowing that they won the lottery would also be at a loss too. Memories of his wives and children flooded his mind. It had been nearly a month since he last laid eyes on them. The longing to be reunited with his family grew stronger with each passing day. He contemplated the idea of returning to the Sunburnt Plateau for a while before pursuing his enrollment at the academy. After all, there were still more than 6 months until the enrollment deadline. The wealth he had amassed would be more than sufficient to develop the entire Sunburnt Plateau for a few years. It was also time to extend his rule over the entire land. However, before embarking on such endeavors, he realized he needed a personal token, one that would bear Maximus' identity. Without it, he would be unable to board any ship to go to the Cursed Continent. Going to the arcane continent from the cursed continent didn't need any token, but after going back you needed a personal token. Sneaking past the city gate unnoticed, Maximus breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there were no guards checking for personal tokens when exiting the city. As he reached the outskirts of the city, near the endless sea, Maximus retrieved and activated the mana deceiver and removed the mask of grimoire. With his true identity, he proceeded to register his information and obtain the personal token he needed. Returning to the city, he resumed his reselling of system products. This time, instead of selling alchemy potions, he focused on mechanical bullets and energy cores. However, being only a Tier 3 nascent mage, his options were limited to selling Tier 3 products, resulting in a modest income. After several rounds of buying and selling, Maximus accumulated more than 100,000 magic crystals. Given his current strength, this was already a dangerous amount, so he quickly made his way back to EGCC to make a purchase. While shopping earlier, he thought about how could he manage the kingdom once he entered the academy. Although his system provided alternatives like a mechanical clone controlled by spiritual power or other communication devices, they were only good for a short distance. There was a vast body of water and chaotic wind blocking any energy transmitted from one continent to another. To bypass that, he needed stronger alchemical or mechanical items. Unfortunately, they were out of his budget. Hopefully that EGCC offer a better solution. Since EGCC was capable of maintaining branches in the cursed continent and facilitating travel back and forth, they should have means of long-distance communication. "Welcome, sir," the steward greeted Maximus as he approached. "How can I assist you today?" Maximus wasted no time getting to the point. "Is there a communication device that can reach the cursed continent from here?" he inquired. "Certainly, we have a wide variety of options available in our shop," the steward replied, offering a friendly smile. He then guided Maximus to a comfortable lounge area. "Here's the catalog, sir. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions." Catalog. Simple Array Node Point connects communication devices to a node point in the continental array, enabling simple communication between the arcane continent and the cursed continent. Price: 100,000 low-grade magic crystals. Mechanical puppet, made of silicon materials, resembling a normal human. Can connect to the continental array of the cursed continent. Hologram puppet, features holographic projection, unable to interact with physical matter. Can connect to the continental array of the cursed continent. Satellite observatory, provides a comprehensive view of your entire territory from any location. Can connect to the cursed continent. After careful consideration, he decided to purchase the simple array node point. He only needed a connection point that he then can connect to a device. After that, he can later acquire additional devices such as the mechanical puppet and satellite observatory. After all, it's more affordable in the system mall. "I would like to buy the simple array node point," Maximus informed the steward. "That will be 100,000 magic crystals," the steward confirmed. Maximus handed over his personal token, and the steward completed the transaction with a simple tap. -100,000. During his previous business dealings, he had conveniently registered a bank account. With his task complete, Maximus left the city and boarded a ship bound for the cursed continent, his homeland. Chapter 58 Homecoming. Maximus arrived at the Sunburnt Plateau 1 month later, aboard a black flying boat. The reason it's called a plateau instead of an island is that it is a relatively high ground that the seawater cannot reach. Almost all of the low-lying islands had either sunk with the sea or been swallowed by sea beasts during a beast tide. The flying boat quickly reached Moonlight Kingdom, his territory. Observing the high ground, Maximus noticed that the people lived in a specific pattern based on a blueprint he bought from the system. This natural formation array structure caused the corrosive mana to gather in the Moonlight Kingdom, purifying it to some extent. Even without the magic materials for finishing touches, it was already showing great promise. Natural formation arrays are rarely used because they are tedious and require precise calculations to form without the need for array materials. It's like shaping a mountain in a specific pattern to achieve a specific task. So naturally, no one bothered to study such a thing when they had an abundance of materials to create a normal array. Except for the continental array, as it was a combination of natural and artificial formation array. As he arrived in Moonshadow City, the people were shocked to find a flying boat hovering above the city. "What is that?" one person said. "Could it be an invasion?" another citizen asked. The soldiers quickly sprang into action, sending smoke signals to prepare for an enemy. Observing the chaos below, Maximus was dumbfounded. Then he remembered that he had snuck out when he used the flying boat to avoid arousing suspicion. However, on the arcane continent, flying and mechanical vessel were too common that even ordinary people could afford one. Maximus swiftly sent out his spiritual consciousness to appease the city. "It's me, your lord," he said. "So it's the lord," one of the citizens replied, patting his chest. "Long live my lord." Some people even started praising him. Knowing it was a false alarm, the soldiers came back to their post. Ignoring the commotion below, he quickly piloted the flying boat toward his castle. Fortunately, there was a large open space in front of the gate to land. As he descended in the flying boat, he saw his children and wives running towards him. Apparently, the earlier commotion had alerted them. "Daddy!" Lila ran to him for a hug. Since they were still far away from the flying boat, he flew towards them to reach them quickly. He didn't know what to say for a while, so he hugged the running Lila tightly. Seeing Lily and Lydia shyly standing in place, he walked over to them and also pulled them into his arms for a warm embrace. "I missed you," he expressed what he felt. Looking at his wives and children, he truly missed them. "I missed you too, Dad," Lily sweetly said, her face blushing as she continued to bury herself in his chest during the hug. Me too, me too. I missed you so much, Daddy." Lila, the lively child, chimed in while in his arms. "Me too," the quiet Lydia softly spoke. After quickly setting down the girls, he turned to the boys. Liam shyly gave him a quick hug, unable to find the words to say. Nathan, equally shy, followed his brother Liam's lead and also gave their father a quick hug. But Max was just like Lila, an energetic child. He jumped up and hugged his father's neck, exclaiming, "I missed you, Daddy. Where is my gift from your travels?" Maximus was quickly dumbfounded as he had forgotten to bring them gifts, but then he remembered his system mall, realizing that this problem was easily solvable. Thinking about what to buy, he considered giving them pets, but not just any pets but a magical beast creature. "Of course, how could I forget gifts?" Maximus bluffed. "Yay!" Max raised his hand in celebration, breaking the hug. His other children were also delighted at the thought of receiving gifts. Before giving the gifts to his children, Maximus went to his wives and embraced them, one by one. "I missed you," Maximus said once again. His wives were also happy and gave him kisses and hugs in return. Looking at his two youngest children, Sam and Luke, who were standing behind his wives, he lowered his head and asked, "Do you miss Daddy?" The two nodded and hugged him tightly. Sam and Luke were barely a year old, but they could already stand, eat, and talk like children who were about 2 years old. Their growth was thanks to the magical food solution they had been given as babies. Unfortunately, Liam and Lily had missed out on that due to his poor circumstances back then, so their development had been delayed. Fortunately, Maximus had made up their bodies to prevent them from suffering in comparison to their siblings. So, even though Liam and Lily were only 4 years old, they already had the physique of 7-year-old children. Meanwhile, Isabella stood in the corner of the gate, a little farther away, giving the family some space. Isabella was somewhat jealous, but not because of Maximus, rather, she longed for a family of her own. When she was just a child, her father died, and her mothers were indifferent, their focus solely on the property her father had left behind. Fortunately, she was a talented mage, so she managed to cope well. Maximus also noticed Isabella and simply smiled at her. Maximus turned his attention back to his children and asked, "Are you ready for your gifts?" "Yes," Max and Lila exclaimed in unison. The others quickly nodded their heads, their eyes shining with excitement. "Let me get your gifts from the flying boat," Maximus said as he walked toward the boat. "Wow! Is that the thing that can fly?" Max exclaimed with excitement. "Can we ride it?" Max continued, eager to experience flying. "Of course. Let's go." "I'll take you for a spin," Maximus led his children and wives to the flying boat. Once inside, his children ran around, exploring and clicking on whatever they could. Fortunately, the boat had automatic controls and only responded to mana signatures, so there was no danger. Maximus entered the control room and set the boat to cruise mode, allowing it to fly in circles over the Moonlight Kingdom. Then he led them to the viewing deck, where they could feel the sensation. Because from the inside, the flying boat seemed just like a normal room. The boat quickly took off, eliciting gasps of amazement from everyone. Although his wives were either Tier 1 official mages or Tier 2 great knights, they had never experienced flying before, so it was a new and thrilling experience for them. His wives, seeing the people their husband ruled working below in contentment, also brought smiles to their faces. Look, the people down there look so small, Layla exclaimed, drawing attention to her siblings. Wow, they're so little, even smaller than us, Max chimed in, nodding his head. Liam and Lily just stood there, trying to appear mature, but secretly marveling at the scene. However, Lydia buried her head in Maximus's shoulder, trembling slightly. It seemed she had a fear of heights. As for the two little children, Sam and Luke, they were happily cradled in their mother's arms, enjoying the warm breeze. Observing this scene, Maximus smiled and quickly browsed through the system for the perfect pet to give to his children. First, he thought of Liam. He looked for a lion-type creature that matched Liam's personality of being calm and composed, like a born king. Dawnfire White Lion Cub, born from a Tier 6 Dawnfire White Lion. They are born to rule with hope and fire. It has a hint of a Tier 9 bloodline of the Dawnfire Celestial White Lion. Price, $3 billion. Usually, when a cub was born from a Tier 6 beast, it would grow up to become a Tier 6 beast. Maximus would have preferred to buy a Tier 7 or higher beast cub, but he passed on it when he saw the price. Starting from Tier 7 products, the prices would increase by hundreds of times. Moreover, for a Tier 9, the price would increase by thousands or even tens of thousands of times. With only over 400 million low-grade crystals or 400 billion gold points, he needed to make the most of it. He chose those with a hint of Tier 9 bloodline so that in the future when he had enough money, he could purify their bloodline. After choosing a beast pet for Liam, he considered what would suit Lily best. Lily had a natural beauty and a cold nature, commanding everyone's respect as if she were a queen. No one dared to oppose her words. He quickly selected a beast pet that matched her characteristics. Nether Boa Snake Cub, born from a Tier 6 Nether Boa Snake. They rule over the deathly Nether, worshipped as the goddess of darkness. It has a hint of a Tier 9 Nether Seraphim Snake, which embodies both holiness and darkness. Price, $4 billion. Chapter 59 Beast Pet. In the flying boat in the sky of the Moonlight Kingdom, Maximus finished choosing a beast pet for Lily. He then decided to choose beast pet for Max and Nathan next. Max, being an adventurous and lively brat, he chose Golden Monkey Cub, a cub of a Tier 6 Golden Monkey. It was a free-spirited adventurer with an indomitable spirit. It has a hint of Tier 9 Golden Chaos Monkey bloodline. Price, $2 billion. For Nathan, who was always silent and cold, Maximus chose Midnight Panther Cub, a cub of a Tier 6 Midnight Panther. It was a naturally born assassin. Born in the Shadow Realm. It has a hint of Tier 9 Voidstalker bloodline. Price, $2.5 billion. As for Lila, another lively girl, Maximus chose Silverwing Eagle Cub, a cub of a Tier 6 Silverwing Eagle. It had lived at the highest peak of the mountain and was once one of the pets of the Silver Angels. It had a hint of Tier 9 Stormwind Eagle and Tier 9 Skyfire Eagle bloodline. Price, $3.5 billion. For Lydia, Maximus chose a gentle beast-type pet. Six-tailed Fox Cub, a cub born from a Tier 6 six-tailed fox. It was considered one of the most beautiful creature in the animal kingdom, with a hint of Tier 9 nine-tailed fox bloodline. Price, $2.5 billion. After buying all the beast pets, Maximus also purchased a beast ring. Maximus turned his attention to Sam and Luke. He decided not to give them beast pets for now, as they were too young and unable to take care of themselves. Instead, he chose some gadgets for them to play with. Balanced Haste Shoes, Tier 1, a mechanical device powered by a magic crystal. It could hover a few inches off the ground, providing fast maneuverability. It could balance in the air no matter what you did and had a protective shield in case of bumps. Having bought everything for his children, he then thought about what to give to his wives. Unable to decide, he just chose different types of clothes and jewelry that boosted meditation and training. Once he finished his selection, he turned to his family. "Do you want to get down?" They had been flying for half an hour, so he asked.
Yes.
Liam, Nathan, Lily, and Lydia exclaimed.
No.
Lila and Max replied. Sam and Luke were already asleep in their mother's arms. Looking at his wives, who also wanted to get down, he said to them, "All right, the majority voted, let's go home."
No.
Layla and Max looked dismayed. "Oh, don't you want to see your gifts?" Maximus joked. It seemed like they had forgotten about their gifts after playing.
We want to.
Lila and Max said in unison and then looked at each other. They had been in unison 3 times in a row now. Although they were 1 year apart, they couldn't help but wonder. "Then let's go," Maximus said as he operated the boat at maximum speed, heading towards the castle. After landing for a while, he led them to the back garden of the castle as it had a large space and nice air. In the back garden, Maximus jokingly asked, "Who's first?"
Me. Me. Me.
All right, let's start with the oldest sister, Lily." Maximus smiled at their chatter. Lily excitedly came to him, waiting to see what gift their father had for them. "Here you go, sweetie." Maximus smiled and handed her a pure white snake with a hint of darkness and a crimson aura. Lily carefully held the snake in her hand. "Cute," Lily unconsciously muttered. Although the snake was scary, it somehow looked beautiful and cute to Lily, who just stared at them lovingly. Even Lydia, who was scared of worms, was attracted to it. "Do you like it, Lily?" Maximus asked with a smile. "Yes, Dad, it's the best gift for me," Lily shyly said. Maximus lovingly patted her head. Next, the oldest brother, Liam. "Come here," Maximus called. Liam hurriedly came to him. "This is your pet lion," Maximus explained as he gave Liam a lion the size of an adult cat. "Wow," Liam petted the little lion, and the lion licked his hand, startling him. "Is that a cat?" Max shouted. "Can I pet it?" Max knew what a cat was, but the castle didn't have them, so he eagerly asked his brother if he could pet it. "It's not a cat, it's a baby lion," according to father. Liam turned his head back to his little brother as he hugged the lion for himself.
"Humph, stingy."
Seeing his brother, Liam, not allowing him to pet the cat, Max just harumphed. "All right, enough of that." Next is Max. Maximus shifted their attention.
"Where is mine?"
Max ran up to him and shook him. "Here, a golden monkey for a golden boy." Maximus joked a little as he handed Max a golden monkey who was very energetic, even though it was only a cub. The monkey, seeing that Maximus was handing it to a kid, jumped onto Max's head as if declaring himself as Max's master. "Come here." Max was very happy with the monkey, but as he saw it on his head, he grabbed the back of the monkey's skin and hugged it, just like Liam hugged his lion. The monkey was forcibly pulled and became angry, struggling in Max's hands. "Ha ha ha," but Max just laughed it off, thinking that the monkey was playing with him. "Be gentle, Max. You could hurt it," Maximus reminded his child. "All right, Daddy," Max said as he placed the monkey on his shoulder. But the monkey was stubborn and once again climbed up to Max's head. Amused, Max put the monkey on his shoulder again, causing giggles from him. "Childish," Lily said as she petted the snake in her hands. "Next is Nathan," Max reminded.
"Here,"
Nathan nervously said as he awaited what pet his father would give him. Maximus took out a pitch-black panther with blue emerald eyes. Nathan silently accepted the pet, seemingly satisfied with what he got. The panther was the size of a little cat, just like his brother Liam's. Although a little smaller, but Nathan liked what he got more, as it was quiet and silently lay in his arms. If you didn't see its eyes, you would think that it was just a shadow, as the panther's fur absorbed all the light. "Next is Lila," Maximus said, moving on to his next child.
"I'm here."
Lila ran up to him and hugged his legs. "This is for you, Lila." Maximus took out a silver eagle. The eagle looked like a chick when it first saw Lila. It tried to flap its wings but to no avail. Although it couldn't fly, the silver eagle's feathers were complete, unlike a newborn bird without feathers. The eagle's silver feathers shimmered in the sun, capturing Lila's attention. Seeing that the bird couldn't fly on its own, Lila gently brought the eagle to her hand. "I'll be your friend from now on." Lila patted the eagle's head and whispered. The eagle seemingly understood her meaning and chirped twice in agreement. "Thank you, Daddy." Lila smiled and kissed Maximus on the cheek. Maximus smiled back and patted her head. Next is Lydia. Lydia approached Maximus silently as if awaiting her final verdict. "This is for you, Lydia." Maximus patted Lydia's head. It was a white fox with 6 tails. Lydia took the fox from his hand and hugged it with a cute smile. This was the most beautiful thing she had seen in her life. The other 2 girls also noticed how beautiful the fox was and briefly considered exchanging their pets for a moment. However, upon seeing their pets looking at them with their adorable eyes, they quickly changed their minds. Although both girls admitted that the fox was more beautiful than their pets, they didn't yield as they believed the ones they had were more powerful. Lydia, on the other hand, didn't see this comparison, as she focused on petting the fox. "Next, Sam and Luke," Maximus said, looking at the 2 little ones. Here," the 2 stuttered, following the words their brothers and sister had said when their father called their names. The 2 nearly stumbled as they hurriedly walked toward him. Maximus was patient, waiting for them to approach. "This is for you." He took out a pair of shoes. Sam and Luke felt disappointed for a moment as they also wanted pets. But upon seeing their father's sincere eyes, they didn't know what to say as their vocabulary was limited. Seeing his son's disappointment, Maximus smiled and helped them put on the shoes. The mechanical shoes automatically adjusted and fit perfectly. After ensuring they were wearing the shoes, Maximus inserted a mid-grade magic stone to provide power for a long time. "Now, move," Maximus encouraged them. As they tried to move, the mechanical shoes were activated, propelling them in a straight line toward a tree in an instant. Fortunately, there was a protective barrier, so they were safe. Maximus also broke into a sweat. Sam and Luke, on the other hand, looked a little pale, but excitement was evident in their eyes. Normally, walking is tedious and hard, but with these shoes, they could move as if they were flying. After getting the hang of it for a while, the two raced in circles, giggling with happiness. "Daddy, I also want that," Max approached him, seeing his little brothers racing at high speeds, which made his blood boil. "No, you already have yours. Do you want to exchange it with theirs?" Maximus denied his request. He couldn't spoil his children too much, as it would lead to them becoming spoiled brats. Max thought about his father's suggestion and looked at the monkey that had already settled on his shoulders. The monkey, as if understanding, looked at Max with pitiful eyes. Max struggled for a moment and finally gave up. Chapter 60 Tier 4 Sky Knight. In the castle bedroom, Maximus and his wives were enjoying a rare moment of bonding while their tired children slept, exhausted from their earlier playtime. "How was your trip to the Arcane Continent?" Erica asked as she combed Maximus' hair, with him leaning against her legs. "It's incredibly grand there. If we compare our place to the Arcane Continent, it's like comparing a speck of dirt to a whole mountain," Maximus mused, recalling what he had witnessed in the Arcane Land. The Arcane Continent resembled an interstellar civilization, while their current location seemed backward and ancient in comparison. "How is the quality of mana there?" Hazel asked curiously. Hazel's progress in training was slow due to the corrosive mana. As for the purification array, it was not enough for them. So she was eager to know what it would feel if they train in the legendary land of the Arcane. "Don't even start with the quality of mana. Just the quantity there is overwhelming. Suppose an ordinary person was placed in that environment. In that case, they might die due to the lack of adaptation," Maximus replied. Furthermore, simply by living there, one can become an official mage or knight through minimal study upon reaching adulthood. Upon hearing this, all of his wives were shocked by the vision he described. In their current location, advancing to an official mage required countless resources and painstaking meditation. Sometimes they even took turns caring for their children just to have more time for training. "Are there many beauties?" Rose asked, glancing at her protruding belly and then at her husband. "Of course, there are countless beauties. I noticed that there were hardly any who were ugly or had disabilities in the Arcane Continent," Maximus exaggerated. While he did encounter many beauties, some even meeting his standards to pass the system fit value, but he had changed and was no longer desperately seeking more partners. Moreover, the mere fact that his wives stared at him as if he were a scumbag gave him a headache. Furthermore, he didn't want to be a canary, always at the mercy and a lapdog for the system. It was like being told to become a pig and give birth to many piglets, and in return, they would upgrade his cage to a larger one. "Anyway, how is your pregnancy, Angeline, Rose, and Irene?" Maximus asked, diverting the topic. They were already 9 to 10 months pregnant, so their due dates were approaching. "We're fine, thanks to the supplements you gave us. The babies are healthy," Angeline smiled, gently caressing her bulging stomach. Rose and Irene nodded in agreement. "What's your next plan, husband?" Luna asked. The other wives were also curious. Earlier in the day, their husband had mentioned that he would share his follow-up plan with them at night. "I plan to relocate our family to the Arcane Continent," Maximus said with a serious face. He had come up with this idea during his trip to the Arcane Continent. The quality and quantity of mana there alone were enough reasons to consider settling there. Although the mana in the Sunburnt Plateau could eventually be upgraded to match the mana of the Central Continent using his system cheat, that was something to be done later. For now, limited by his abilities, specifically financial resources, he could only alleviate and purify the mana to a certain extent. Most of the scattered islands in the Cursed Continent followed a similar approach, reconstructing the terrain of their territories to alleviate and purify the mana. However, they rarely invested too much in it. The highest achievement was a Tier 5 mana environment, which took countless generations to achieve. Creating such an environment would likely cost hundreds of billions of low-grade magic crystals. Meanwhile, even the most remote parts of the arcane continent could have a Tier 5 mana environment simply by placing some arrays similar to the manor he had rented. And that only cost 1 million low-grade magic crystals per year compared to the billions of magic crystals one would have to spend. Finally, he had decided to relocate to the arcane continent because he hoped that his wives could advance alongside him. Although the system mall offered various life extension medicines, they were still medicines after all and will have resistance after long-term use. After Maximus shared his decision, his wives were both excited and worried. "How do you propose we settle in the arcane continent?" Erica asked, looking puzzled. They didn't have any backers or support when they arrived, so she was concerned about their safety. "Don't worry, I have made arrangements. I have found a teacher who is a Tier 5 mystic mage and a Tier 5 alchemist," Maximus lied. "Teacher has assured me that he will help us settle in the arcane continent and even advised against staying in the cursed continent any longer. He intended to have his disguise Edward William act as his teacher. Because in the future, all his expenses will come from this identity. Furthermore, having a Tier 5 teacher conveniently provided a reason to acquire items from the system mall as well." "But wouldn't that add trouble for him?" Livia asked, expressing her worries. "No, rest assured. As a Tier 5 alchemist, he is quite wealthy, and he has even established his store," Maximus explained. Livia sighed with relief upon hearing this. "In addition, I plan to attend the Mechanic Academy in the next 5 months, so we will depart in 3 or 4 months, Maximus continued. "What?" His wives were shocked. They hadn't expected that their husband would be studying, and they wondered if they would still have frequent opportunities to meet. Seeing their saddened expressions, Maximus comforted them, saying, "Don't worry. I've heard that the academy allows for a fair amount of freedom. Furthermore, once you advance to Tier 2, your lifespan will increase, and we will have plenty of time together." His wives sighed with relief, fueling their determination to become stronger and accompany their husbands for a longer time. "By the way, how will you manage the kingdom while you're away? Are you going to abandon it?" Irene asked. "Of course not. How could I abandon the foundation we have built?" Maximus immediately refuted. All of his plans revolved around his current territory, so abandoning it was out of the question. Going to the arcane continent was merely a transitional phase to earn money and transform his ideal kingdom. Furthermore, Maximus found something peculiar about how the Tier 9 powerhouses ruled over their domains. Why was it that only by reaching Tier 9 could one have their domain in the central continent? Were these newly added domain created out of thin air, or were they shared among others? It was also puzzling how the central continent had strict rules in place to protect and nurture the weak. Shouldn't they be worried about people becoming more powerful and potentially overthrowing them? Moreover, despite having limited resources, they still vigorously trained knights and mages. It had reached a point where there were more than 1,000 Tier 9 powerhouses. Considering that Tier 9 powerhouses already had an infinite lifespan which consumes higher resources. Furthermore, only one person could master a specific law, having 1,000 of them reduced the number of possible laws one needed to advance by a third. This made Maximus think of the novel he had read in his previous life. He thought that the Tier 9 powerhouse did all of this to make the world advance. Although it was a grand dream, it could be a possible reason they vigorously trained talents. Thus, he absolutely couldn't abandon his territory, as it might be a piece to improve his strength to a new level in the future. After hearing that Maximus wouldn't abandon his territory, his wives were puzzled. They had heard from him that the journey to the arcane continent would take almost a month, and the back-end fort journey would be 2 months. Managing the kingdom in such a manner would be a hassle and troublesome. "How are you going to manage it then?" Irene asked, voicing the question that puzzled them. "I bought a node connector to the continental array, and teacher gave me a mechanical puppet, so I can control the kingdom remotely while I am away," Maximus explained. Although his wives didn't fully understand what he said, they nodded in response. "Enough of that, let's start the fight. I've been holding back these few months," Maximus smiled evilly as he looked at his wives. Maximus even inwardly shouted, "I can fight 10. With just a year of training, he became a Tier 4 Sky Knight. Moreover, his knight training manual specialized in stamina and regeneration, so he felt confident that he could take on 10 opponents. The 3 wives who were pregnant, Angeline, Rose, and Irene, just shook their heads at their husbands' antics. Looking at their bulging bellies, they smiled and wished their fellow wives good luck as they made their way out. Round 1 fight.